Central Hall, Westminster, was the place chosen for the meeting of representatives from the 51 United Nations.
The United Nations in session for the very first time. Meeting in London in 1946, there were 51 countries seated in the UN General Assembly. Now there are 193. In 1946, there were high hopes for the new organisation after 2 world wars. Now the world body is being tested again by the pandemic, and many feel the UN has failed that test because many of its members have been fending for themselves rather than working together. 7 days after the first General Assembly, in a conference room in a church building nearby in London, it was the turn of the other main body of the UN in charge of maintaining international peace and security. Listening back to these recordings today, the first word ever spoken in the Security Council seems particularly jarring.
Gentlemen.
All 11 ambassadors on the council, the number of members was later increased to 15 in 1965, were all men.
They wouldn't have realised it at the time in 1946, but with the benefit of hindsight 75 years on, we now know the world was drifting into what we now call the Cold War. It lasted for more than 40 years. 2 rival military blocs, mistrust, which meant much of the work of the Security Council was paralysed.
That's because in the Security Council, division means inaction. When the UN was set up, 5 nations, the US, Russia, China, France and the UK, were given permanent membership and the power of veto on any Security Council decision.
The resolution is not carried owing to the negative vote of a permanent member.
The number of times the veto has been used has been increasing again in recent years.
Those against?
Marking increased tension between the US and its allies on one side and China and Russia on the other. Incoming US President Joe Biden believes in the UN and international cooperation, but he'll face a UN system with growing discord in a world where some see the United Nations as increasingly irrelevant. James Bays, Al Jazeera, London.